Have you ever seen Max and Ruby? It was a Canadian television program with a charmingly British dub, in which the parents are mostly absent until very late in the show's run. They were presumably away on holiday or vacation, leaving their children to get into horrible annex with no child protective services able to reach out and discuss their behavior with them. For most of the series run, Ruby is depicted as both the older sister and mother figure of Max, due to the producer's intention of making the television show appealing to American redneck audiences, in which that sort of thing was more or less the norm. Now, rabbits get scared easily, and despite being targeted toward young children, this program can get rather disturbing rather fast, especially this particular episode. There have been rumors that it was developed as a Halloween prank by some very lonely and underpaid interns, disgruntled and disappointed in what show business turned out to be. But that's just theory A. Now on to theory B. The Blue Tarantula. Yes, it was indeed called that. As it turns out, Nelvana executive producer Michael Hirsch once owned a blue tarantula and stomped on it, squishing it to death, dissecting its parts, and performing rather horrific biology experiments upon its carcass. But he was said to be guilted by the experience, and that he never got over it for as long as he lived. So, this episode is on the surface semi-innocent, with the premise that a young child who doesn't know any better wants to have a creepy book read to him because he has no idea how disturbing it's going to turn out to be. But, after learning what I have learned, I can assure you that this was all on purpose. This was all on purpose. There's no theme song, but a hopelessly reverbed reverse sound effect of a real-life rabbit screeching, as if in shock or hoping to alert somebody. A half-a-second clip of a real-life Netherland dwarf rabbit is shown, sitting in a children's lunchbox. But it's very calm and collected and nibbling on moderately moldy lettuce leaves. The episode then otherwise begins as normal, with Max asking Ruby to read a book called The Blue Tarantula. Except that the normal book Ruby wants to read to Max instead has a picture of former American President George W. Bush on the cover, with his eyes missing and replaced with iridescent jewels. President Bush is aggressively petting a pet rabbit, which looks more than mildly agitated to be there at all. Max throws up onto the floor. The caption, "This is bad for your health," displays in all caps at the bottom of the screen, in some sort of Old English bookman font. I assume it was an editorial by the show creators, mocking having to create the English dub of the program, but who can really say? Max remarks that books about happy families are boring, so he again has Ruby read the book about the blue tarantula. The cover is a picture of a donkey smoking a cigar, choking and wheezing. Once upon a time, there was a blue tarantula. Ruby's usually sweet and lovable, cheery British voice was now kind of spooky and sinister. It even disturbed me just a little bit, causing me to spill wine all over my Persian carpet and mantelpieces. The blue tarantula sat in a tank, and he gave the thumbs up. However, he looked rather absurd in the tank, and nobody likes him anymore. This made him very upset. The audio dropped to a G major tone for the word upset. This had to have been done on purpose. The tape sputtered. He began to squirm his fuzzy, disgusting spider appendages around and sunk his fangs into some innocent children's neck. Max, I'm glad I wasn't the child he murdered. Well, good night. Ruby threw the book out the window. The sound of a cat meowing in the distance could be heard, along with the intern laughing. Ruby kisses Max on the forehead and goes off to her room. But just like in the version of the episode that you might have seen, Max is too scared and startled to go to sleep. For a split frame, Ruby turns into an actual blue tarantula with a clear cephalothorax and abdomen and very strong jaws. She grabs a walnut out of her pocket and chews it apart swiftly. I'm assuming this was an animation error and a miscommunication with the animation department. They probably thought it was an episode in which Ruby becomes the blue tarantula, not about a book she was to read Max called The Blue Tarantula. So yes, Max is too scared to go to sleep. Ruby checks up on him and they're both startled speechless by the sound coming from beneath Max's bed. If you've seen the episode that aired, then you recall it being a jack-in-the-box that pops out and frightens both them to fuzzy little rabbit pieces. In this episode, it's a dagger. There's a dagger protruding from underneath Max's bed and it's somehow supposedly making sounds. But daggers don't make sounds, Max whispers to Ruby. He was right. They don't. Suddenly, there's a blood-curdling scream, and both of them ignore it. Paper clips, pens, pencils, jars of ink, and polka-dotted ink blots go flying into the air outside their window. The caption, "This is why we don't hire interns," displays at the bottom in the same Bookman Old English font. The dagger begins to sob. It has oogly eyes drawn onto it, and they're now sagging, drooping like molten egg whites on a pan on top of a stove. Oh, everybody thinks I'm out to get them, the dagger sobbingly explains, despite not even having a mouth drawn upon it. Oh, and at the very sight of me, they are afraid. Max and Ruby simply stare on, eyes bulging, ogling, unable to move out of sheer fear-induced paralysis. But did you also know that Come dance! The dagger begins to pulse and vibrate, swirling around in the air, doing tricks over some sort of high-energy disco beat, melody, and rhythm as a chrome-colored strobe light swirls, and the mother and father rabbit characters ascend from the wooden floor planks that have slowly opened as if they had strings attached to them. Their bodies, too, appear to have strings attached like marionettes as they move, spasming around as if they have a horrible birth condition that leaves their appendages permanently sagging. Like Muppets with no hands or fingers inside of them. The dagger continues to dance and contort as Max and Ruby scream. Their parents being carved as the serrated cutter continues to shake its handle and dance and dance and laugh and smile, now with a single curved line by an inked-on impression of a dimpled chin. Animated shrivels of rabbit entrails, intestines, heart, spleen, brain matter, pus, matter, fur, all ooze out over the wooden floor and stain it red. And yellow and green, there seemed to be a shape of an eagle and a shield. Upon closer inspection, it sure seemed to resemble the silhouette of the flag of the U.S. Virgin Islands. A half a second still image of a blue and white striped box-like structure building flashes on screen surrounded by palm trees with a caption of "The Blue Tarantula." The music stopped, the strobe light retracted in the ceiling as if by magic or a stagehand, and the parents' parts slowly began to fade away with a 3D dissolution effect, despite this being a 2D cartoon. And if anyone ever tells you that you cannot or should not do whatever you truly want in life to do, the cutter begins to explain pedantically, you just do it. No matter what Mother Nature thinks of you! It kind of opens up the window with two plastic white Mickey Mouse gloves drawn onto tube-like appendages, presumed to have been arms. He jumps out the window, and presumably onto the ground below. Oh my God! Shrieks out a middle-aged male-sounding voice. I need that to breathe! Then the episode begins to go to static, flickering out as Max and Ruby's eyes are missing. Not even voids, there's no scleras. Their eyes are just missing. Nothing's there. Goodbye, children, Max whispers. And don't forget to dance. As if nobody's looking. The tape goes to black. No credits or outro music. No nothing. Anything. Now, you can believe whatever you will about this episode and why it exists, but I'd say the evidence has already been presented to you in the form of the episode's actual content. But speaking of content, I'm content to just never think about it ever again. Now that I've finally shared my story and told my older sister no about taking care of her rabbits, I can't do anything interesting with them. Just being around them gives me the jitters and the blues.